course, we know funding at the district level is crucial, and that is what the minority has been harping on in Parliament. In fact, that was the focus of that conversation yesterday. It ought to be brought to your attention, all of you watching us, that since 2018, over 6 billion Ghana cedis has been owed the district assemblies by way of the District Assemblies Common Fund. And the minority is saying that you either start dealing with that situation or, as a finance ministry, nothing that emanates from you that comes to Parliament will be dealt with, will receive our attention, will block it. That is what they have been saying. You heard in one of those clips, Minority Chief Whip Governs Kwame Agboja sharing his thoughts on that matter. Well, we get into the conversation this morning with our guests. Fred Odrejako is a Dean of the Institute of Local Government. He'll be joining us shortly. We also have Dr. Daniel Appiah, a public administration expert. Dr. Appiah, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you join the conversation on the AM show.
Right. Thank you.
Let's start the conversation off from the districts and how crucial they are to our national life. They are one of those areas, starting points as far as administration of the country is concerned. How crucial are the districts to our national life in terms of their activities? Right.
So if you look at the role that the district assemblies play in terms of promoting infrastructural development, you will see that they have been playing a significant role in our national development when it comes to construction of roads, construction of district hospitals, construction of schools, market centers, and many other responsibilities that they've been taking. If you look at the whole issue of even ensuring clean environment or good sanitation, it is the role of the district assemblies. So they've been playing a very important role that without the financial support, it will become very, very difficult for many local communities and districts to move on very well. So they really have been playing a very important role.
Were you surprised when you heard that since 2018, there had been such a yawning gap, quite a deficit, which meant that over 6 billion Ghana cedis, and consider the number of districts and look at the amount, it would mean that quite a number of them have gone missed out on projects that they could have enacted. Were you surprised by the figures?
Yes, very surprised. Why surprised? Because here we are with a government that has promised its commitment to deepening decentralization and then building the capacity of the district assemblies to promote development, even to the extent that in 2019, the government wanted to initiate a referendum, so to build the capacity of the district assembly. So for a government that believes in decentralization and then want to even get the citizens on board to give more power to the district assemblies to promote development, and for that same government to withhold the financial resources required by the district assemblies to promote development, certainly this comes as a shock. You would struggle to reconcile the two situations as to whether the government is simply interested in the political aspect of local government and not really interested in the developmental aspect of local government. So I think that perhaps maybe is the only meaningful or rational explanation that one can really come up with to really explain why this is the situation. Because if really a government is really committed to deepening decentralization, building capacity, and the same government wants citizens to give district assemblies more authority by way of electing their own MMDCs, but it's come to the financial aspect, you say, hey, I'm not giving you the money, then really one cannot put up any rational explanation than to say that we are simply interested in the politics aspect, but we are not really interested in the developmental aspect of it, or the government has not really been very much committed to the developmental aspect of it, but so much committed to the political aspect of it.
So government focusing on the political aspects, and of course, because there would be appointees at that level as well. Usually some would gloss over it, pretend it is not there, but it is a problem. If you just do the division, the 6 billion Ghana cedis by the 216 also districts that we have, barring any additions, you're looking at about 27.77 million Ghana cedis that would be owed to each one. I mean, if you just do the averaging, okay? Right. It may not specifically be this for every district, but if you do the averaging and spread it across, that is what it means. Now, imagine almost 30 million Ghana cedis, which could, like you've rightly mentioned, be going into security because the DISEC, the District Security Councils are there, health, security, district health posts, district educational posts, roads, and all of that. What do you think would be the impact of such a sum of money, about 30 million Ghana cedis, that if you had that deficit at the district level, what do you think the impact would be?
The impacts for many district assemblies will be very dire, especially in the northern part. If you take assemblies like Tema, Metropolis, where they've been able to mobilize millions of cedis from IGF or internally generated funds.
Right.
Whilst the impact on them will be quite significant, but I think they are still able to undertake some infrastructural development even without the DACF really coming in. You take assemblies like Nantong, Tatale, Sangoli, Northeast Gunja, those bottom districts, if you look on the district assemblies league table, I mean, they are just sitting there and then they don't have enough money from internally generated funds. And their main source of money for pursuing infrastructural development is the District Assemblies Common Fund. And I won't be surprised that come this year or come the next district league table, you are going to find the same district assemblies at the bottom. Right. Because they don't really have the money to promote the developments that we are asking them to actually promote. And so for those, especially in the northern, the Savannah, Oti areas, really the impact on them is very, very serious. Because many go to the office, they say that all infrastructural development projects have come to a standstill. But for those in Accra, Greater Accra, Kumasi, KMA, they are able to mobilize some significant IGF, or they are able to still move around. But for the majority, developments have come to a standstill. Many infrastructure projects come to a standstill. Contractors, many have abandoned site because money is not really coming in. So the impact on many across many regions is very, very serious.
And it's interesting that you bring up the district assemblies league log, because like you rightly mentioned, those in the more urban areas, because of urbanization, because of access, are able to do more when it comes to internally generated funds. So they may not feel the harsh impact like some place in maybe Tolong or Bunkurugu or some other places, including the OT region, like you've mentioned. When you look at the league log, you would see that some of these areas, especially in rural communities, face a lot of problems. And that is where we're trying to prop them up. But with this, it only means we are literally pushing them deeper, further down. And that could get rather problematic. Maybe we would have to interact with some of those districts, if they will speak, to find out what the impact really, in real terms, because I'm sure if we interacted with them, they would tell you, okay, so our situation is more health, our situation is more this or that. But from the administrative standpoint, or maybe even before I get to that, what do you think accounts for these delays in payment? What, from where you sit, has been the bane? Because this is not the first time this is happening. Let's be honest. It's not the first time. It happens. Sometimes it doesn't take this long. But this time, 2018 till now, it's about 5 years. And they still haven't got something amounting to about 6 billion Ghana cedis, which means that over time, only God knows how they've been able to operate. But what accounts for these?
If you take this problem at the local government level, it tells you that Ghana's financial crisis started much way earlier than Ukraine and in Russia. These were the signs that, come on guys, we are in some serious financial crisis. Because as you rightly noted, this is not the first time that it's happened, but this is the first time that we've seen this long stretch of government not meeting its financial obligations. And this is a constitutional obligation. This is not something like, like some bonus that government is giving to assemblies. It is a constitutional obligation. The government is constitutionally obliged to release the monies given to district assemblies through the District Assemblies Common Fund. So from 2018 coming, the signs were there that if we do not put our finances right, we were going in for a much serious crisis. So it's boiled down to how we've really managed our financial situation in the country. And as I said, the signs were out there. If you look at the District Assembly's financial sector as a measure, since 2018, when we started encountering this financial kind of crisis, and then now 2019 COVID came in, 2020 things deepened, 2021 now things are in much serious, and 2022 now we are now restructuring our domestic debt. So the fiscal space now for government now to even get the money to release to district assemblies has become even tighter. If 2018 we couldn't do it, now 2022, and we are now looking for money. And just yesterday or so, when the ministry or the BOD released that report, that we have only about 2.8 months of money
right.
for our import. It tells you that at this particular juncture, this is not the time that government can get the money to settle the district assemblies. And so this is going to continue for quite some time at the end of the day. So it raised then the question of what then should we do in order to leave this particular quagmire? It means that at the end of the day, going forward, we will need a more independent constitutional body that will the money directly paid into the account, either the taxes that are mobilized for the district assemblies go directly to that organization so that central government doesn't control the finances, then we will be able to see some improvement. But so long as central government continues to control the finances, going forward, if you look at the debt restructuring kind of program for the next 5 years or so, the situation is going to be similar as we move forward.
That's an interesting, in fact, a heartbreaking point that you make on the back of, revelations about our economic situation, import cover, what it has come down to and all of that. You are basically positing that there'll be no money for these district assemblies as far as the Common Fund is concerned for quite a while to come. Did you just say 5 years, into the next 5 years?
At least as we sit here, nobody knows even when the IMF is going to actually approve the program that we've sent to them. And when they approve it, it doesn't also mean that just next day money is going to really come in. Right. When the money comes in, we know that the debt that we've restructured, now we need to start paying the bondholders and then all that. And so government is certainly going to hedge those areas that government is not going to have legal troubles or legal problems. If they delay, government is going to hold on to that. But for areas, bond settling of bondholders and all that, where governments could run into serious legal problems or settling even our external debt obligations, government will attend to those areas first. But as I said, if you look at the 5 year to or even beyond 5 years, the debt restructuring plan, it tells you that the problem that we face with the district assemblies in terms of releasing money is going to for quite some time. At best, come in and release something very small, but government will not be able to get all the money to. It's going to be just paying up some trickling in kind of payment. But for the next 5 years, it's continue.
So for the next 5 years, you posit that this could continue. One interesting thing is that a lot of these districts may have to fall on alternative avenues of raising money. Some may even go to the extent of borrowing money. And the question is, when you get into that situation, whatever comes in will be absorbed by the loans you may have taken, which means that you're not really making any progress. But let me also bring into the conversation Fred Odrejako. He's the Dean of the Institute of Local Government. Mr. Odrejako, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Let me say that I'm the former Dean of Studies and Research. I'm no longer the Dean currently.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. Former Dean, Institute of Local Government. Let me just start for you. How did you receive this news that the district assemblies, the Common Fund, they are owed just about 6 billion Ghana cedis, and they've not received payments since 2018? I did the math and realized that if you struck an average, if you just did the division, though I know that in some instances it may be more and in some instances it may be less, you're looking at something almost close to 30 million Ghana cedis, 27.77 million Ghana cedis to be specific. Did you expect this? And how serious is it that our districts are not getting the funding they need that goes into security, health, infrastructure, and the rest?
Well, to begin with, the funding of the district assembly is a major challenge to our local government. And it begins from 1993.
Mr. Jacko, I would be grateful if you could just speak up a little more for me so I can hear you.
We can trace the challenge back to 1993. Since we started this experiment, if I may put it at that, no government can tell me they've paid the requisite 5% of the total national revenue that's supposed to go into the District Assembly Common Fund. Let me be clear that whatever money that has gone to the District Assembly Common Fund administrator, it has been disbursed. But the point is that central government itself, that is the Ministry of Finance from 1993, has failed to give the required fund that should go to the Assembly. And this is a serious challenge to local government because central government has not respected the law since 1993. Central governments have not respected the law. District assemblies have been bullied because assemblies have suffered over the years. But because of the structure of our local government system, nobody speaks for them. So they can't come out to say that we are not receiving the statutory funds which the law requires us.
Is it not also because of the political system? Political appointees at the district level, those who are supposed to talk, would not talk because it would put maybe government in a bad light and their positions could be compromised. Is politics not part of it?
That is the first challenge. But even that aside, if you look at our decentralization in this country, we are only paying lip service to it. Because there are people who are at the center who believe the assemblies don't have capacity to even manage themselves. So they would use any flimsy excuse not to give them the powers that they need to even carry out their work. And when it comes to the fiscal side, as the monetary side, it's worse. So that is where the challenge is coming from. And then the assemblies themselves have also failed to collect adequately the areas that are assigned to them, what we normally call internally generated funds. The system that should help them to collect those revenues to are so poor. But for me, the first challenge comes with the central government because if you look at the 5% that should even go to the assembly, it is woeful. It's very, very inadequate. But even
what percentage? What percentage? I may forget. So pardon my interjection. What percentage of what goes to government by way of revenue do you feel would be adequate for the district assemblies? 10%, 7%? Give us a figure.
No, I mean if you want to look at international best practice, I mean the Scandinavians are doing the best. They are doing 60%.
60%.
60%. And right. Is it any wonder that Scandinavians are said to be the most happiest people on earth? I mean, look at Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, those countries.
Right.
They are doing almost 60%. We are supposed to be doing 5%. And no government, and I dare say, I'm saying this categorically, no government has paid the 5%. So it tells you that we are only paying lip service to fiscal decentralization. So that is the beginning of the problem. And then if you add the other political issues where they are being muzzled and even administrative issues, that you look at many of the key state agencies, that they will not allow the assemblies to function the way they should function. That tells you the challenge we have. So, and yes, we may be in financial crisis, but the problem we are looking at predates the current financial crisis the country is facing. There must be a political will by central government to give the assemblies what the law requires they should be given, and more.
So that would be a starting point, the 5%, which they've not been able to pay anyway. And you would assume that from the early 90s, maybe even all the way till about 2000 or into the early 2000s, you would say those were the teething period where we were cutting our teeth. But if in 2023, we're still, in fact, since 2018, we've had such a problem where they are owed so much, then you know it's a serious problem. And the bullying you speak of comes in. But I'll go back to my question. The Scandinavian countries, the Swedens, the Finlands, the Norways, and the rest, are doing very well in their human development. And you talk about 60% going to their assemblies. What do you think would be practical for us to do? The 5%, should we at least attain that? And if we attain that, what should be the next step? What percentage should we be aiming at to better the fortunes of our district assemblies?
No, for an economy such as ours and the way we are doing things in this country, let me even say that I would hope that one day we can get to as far as, say, 20%.
As far as how much?
In the near future. But even beginning with a 5%, my worry
Mr. Jacko, I didn't get that. As far as how much in percentage terms?
No, I mean, in the medium term, say in the next 10 years, I would say let us strive to go to 10 to 20%.
10 to 20%.
But even before we do that, the point is that let us ensure that the 5% the law mandates should be given to them. And if there is a need to put in place a system to do that, but I think Parliament must be the institution that must support us. So if Parliament is failing to do that, I don't know where else we can go, because yes, the courts could have helped, but if you have a political system, that district chief executive will be afraid to go to court to demand what the law gives to the assemblies. Why is Parliament failing to protect the district assemblies?
Hello? Are you with us?
Hello. I mean, for a start, I think the Parliament must be the institution that should protect the assemblies.
Right before I go back to Daniel Appiah, Dr. Appiah, I'd just like to find out from you. Dr. Appiah, interacting with me earlier, said that, look, realistically, there is no money for these district assemblies. And that maybe in the next 5 years is going to be a repeat of what we've seen already. Why? He makes the point that we're in dire straits economically. In fact, when you look at our import cover, among others, we have very little room within which to operate. We don't even have the IMF deal, and if we get it, there are other areas. Look at the IPPs, look at bondholders, look at all the matters that government has to deal with. In other words, we're in a deep hole, and according to him, there is simply no money for these district assemblies. And maybe they shouldn't expect anything different over the next 5 years. Is that a position you share? And is that something we can pursue? What would it mean for our district assemblies if we went down that road for the next, let's say, 5 years? Similar situation. What would it mean?
Well, I think there must be efficiency in the collection of IGF, that's internally generated funds.
Okay.
These are rates, licenses, fees, and charges, and even taxes that by law the district assemblies are empowered to collect. They have, if you look at property rates alone as a singular factor, and you consider most of the urban districts and the municipalities and the metropolitan areas, if they are going to be efficient in the collection of property rates alone, I think it can go a very long way to support the work of the district assemblies. And there are other taxes and rates and licenses that we must support the district assemblies to collect. Look, let me give you one instance. Look at the amount of money that telecom companies are making in this country. They have various masts all over the place, which by law, they should be paying some licenses to the assemblies. But somehow, over the years, the law has been watered down so that they are literally paying nothing to the assemblies. And these are areas that we must support our assemblies to collect, to do their work. But they are not doing it. And I think the assemblies themselves, I support the assembly system fully, but I think the assemblies themselves must also, back up their acts and begin to be more efficient and effective in their collection. There are too many loopholes, and there's so much laxity in the system that people are not just paying their rates and licenses and the like. There are people who genuinely would like to pay their property rate, but the system that exists currently in most of the assemblies is not enough to support effective collection and efficiency in the collection also. So we need to be looking at some of these. If you look at the Auditor General report, it is replete with issues about inefficiencies in the collection of internally generated funds by the assemblies. We must look at all these things. I know there are some activities ongoing. The Ministry of Local Government is bringing up new systems to support effective collection. But we need to speed up some of these things. And the assemblies must be compelled to do the right thing. Sometimes there must be sanctions that if they are failing to meet their collection, what they are expected to collect, there must be some sanctions in there. So there's a lot of things that we can do. If the assemblies can improve on their IGF, as we choose to call it, it will help them to even wean themselves from central government funds.
You still not, tackled the bit about whether you agree with Dr. Appiah when he says there's simply no money for them, and in the next 5 years, likely this situation is going to continue. I just want your brief take on that, so I bring in Dr. Appiah.
I perfectly agree that it's going to be harder because of the current economic situation. We have a bad situation, and as far as central government is concerned, it's going to be worse because of the current economic situation and the IMF program and all that we are talking about. But besides that, the assemblies must work at being more efficient in their internal collection.
It's going to get worse, likely. It doesn't look like a very positive outlook as far as the district assemblies and the Common Fund are concerned. But let me come back to you, Dr. Appiah. Having listened to Mr. Odre-Jacko and what he has shared with us, the picture he's painted, best practices in other parts of the world, especially the Scandinavian nations, look at any positive index. Quality of life, human development index, education, and the rest, you would see them at the very top. And these are some of the means they employ to arrive at those ends. 60% going down so that infrastructure, health, security, and all those other things can be provided at that level. Looking at the percentages he has given, that between 5 and 10% progressively over the next 5 to 10 years. We should be, in fact, between 10 to 20% over the next 5 to 10 years. He hopes we can get there, and that would be something more sustainable. Do you agree? And if you differ, what would be your preference?
Right. Thank you very much. Yes. So it will be good to see a similar increase to the 40 or 60% that we've seen being done in the Scandinavian countries. But I completed my master's degree in Norway, and I know the situation out there. This is a country that has not touched its oil money. They say the oil money is for generations. They are very, very rich. Living standards are very high there. But compared to our living standards or situation here, I think that a committee was put together with some economists, technical experts to look at what should be the feasible increase in the DACF, the District Assemblies Common Fund. And this was as far back as former President Kufuor's time, during the same NPP and NPP government. And it was agreed that there should be an increase from 5% to 7.5%. And this was approved, or it was taken to Parliament, and then it was approved. And this was it was approved during the second meeting of the third session of the fourth Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. That was in July 2007. And look, from July 2007 up to present, how many years? We are talking about roughly 15 years. And if even the 7.5% that we increase it to for 15 years, even the 5%, we couldn't do it. It tells you that there is no commitment really on the side of government to actually even fulfill the increase from 5% to 7.5%. So my take really is that it's not really about some kind of fanciful increments from 5% to 7.5%. But even the 5%, DACF, let us look at the most feasible institutional arrangements that we can put in place to make sure that central government does not have control in the disbursement of that 5%. And for us to do that, it calls for an urgent constitutional reform. If the members of parliament are so committed really to take the Ministry of Finance on, then I throw this challenge to them. My challenge is that the two of them should come together and pass a constitutional amendment, because that particular session does not require some kind of a rigid kind of constitutional process that requires a referendum. The two sides can come together, let them pass a constitutional amendment, and then establish an independent body to really get this money and then disperse it to the district assemblies. So it is not just a matter of tomorrow we are going to hold the Ministry of Finance down and say we are going to hold your programs down if you do not disperse, when we know the money is not there. They should come together, create an independent body to get the money. Secondly, the sources of the money, wherever the taxes are coming from, once they create these constitutional amendments, they have to make sure that the monies go directly into that particular pool, and central government will not have control over that. For me, even we should hold on with the 7.5% increase. Let's stay with the 5% and make sure that an independent constitutional body, through a constitutional amendment, which can be perceived by the two sides, tomorrow, the next, or the next month, let them do it, and then we are tired of, we hold the Ministry of Finance, we will not approve ministers, we will not do this, and then we wake up and something contrary is done. If they really are so mindful, they are both committed to this fiscal decentralization. My challenge is that they should come together, pass a constitutional amendment, and then create a constitutional body that will get the money and then disperse it, so that we take it away from central government control. That will be my take.
Now, you've spoken, I believe initially you made mention of the fact that some of the taxes should go directly, apart from the IGFs, they should go directly to the district assembly. So they are mopped up within maybe the catchment area. They go to the district assemblies. They don't go to government before, so that way they can mop up the funds and use them for the developmental activities that they want to embark on. But one problem that would militate that situation would be corruption. If you look at the Auditor General's reports, among others, over time, you would realize that even at that level, corruption is rife as well. How would you proffer that be dealt with to ensure that, first of all, the IGFs, and if such a system were implemented, corruption wouldn't end up siphoning those funds? So walk us through that, and maybe even before that, tell us, how can it be done in terms of circumventing the process, getting these taxes to remain within the districts with the knowledge of the central government, but to remain at the districts for development?
Right. So the simple way to do that, as Dr. Drew pointed out, as we look at best practices in other African countries, is to, at the end of the day, take a percentage of income tax that every worker pays, so that we don't go chasing kayaye now for money to put in the coffers. Those are unstable sources. So in countries where these things have worked very, very well, they are serious in their commitment to fiscal decentralization, a percentage of the income tax is given to the district assemblies. So let's take a percentage of the income tax, whether it is 2.5%, 3%, 4%, let us take that percentage, so that every month we know that is a steady flow of funds that will go to this new constitutional body that will be set up. Now, in terms of corruption, that you are right in bringing up the issue of corruption, but if you look at the Auditor General's report, we have 261 district assemblies, but the majority of them, at least, are doing well. It's just a few of them where there have been very serious, grievous, adverse findings that the Auditor General has come up with. And so we will certainly need to also ensure that the Auditor General, particularly the department in charge of auditing the district assemblies, will have to be up and then doing. If they don't have enough personnel, they have to let us know. Because we are not satisfied with the situation where auditors go to some areas and they don't go to other areas. They go spend one day just and then leave. We want a serious auditing process to be done for each of the district assemblies. At the same time, perhaps maybe if we create a new constitutional body, we can have an auditing unit without that constitutional body that will be tasked with going out there to audit the district assemblies so that we don't come to burden the entire audit, the entire office of the Auditor General. It could be an extension of the Auditor General's department, but I'm saying that that particular unit that should be created within the constitutional body should be solely dedicated to external auditing of the district assemblies common fund in terms of the use of that money, and at the same time, to where infractions, serious corruption have come up, we should be able to pursue that through the court and then recover the money. We saw the time of the Melibo. These things were working very well, at least in some assemblies where officers had misappropriated money or engaged in acts of corruption. They were forced to return the money, and we all know how much at that time was retrieved. And so it can be done. At the end of the day, it is a matter of being serious, creating a body that is independent of central government control, staffing it with the right auditors, staffing it with the right personnel, getting this independent transfer of monies to them, disbursing it, and then we're being committed. Because if we don't do this, as I said, the next 5 years or so, we are going to see a serious decline in development at the local government level. And I am not very surprised even that within this same period, we've seen many conflicts, chieftaincy conflicts, land conflicts, raising up their head again in the northern part of Ghana. How many times have the DISEC and REDSEC been meeting? How proactive have they been in really tackling conflict when they detect the signs of conflict coming? They have not been having the money to pay allowances to members and all that. And so we see even an increase, an escalation of conflict in those particular kind of areas. And these are all symptoms that, hey, things are not going on well, and we need to be proactive, come up and be innovative. And as I said, through that challenge, the two sides must come together immediately. If they have thrown that challenge, my challenge is that they should go beyond that and then come up, create a constitutional body through a constitutional amendment, and then move forward with a more innovative approach to tackling the problem that we have.
And it's interesting because looking at the literature, you see, for example, that from 1993, mining communities were supposed to receive additional revenue from the Minerals Development Fund. We all know that the challenges include late or partial disbursement, or sometimes it doesn't come. So all of these were put in place by the 1992 Constitution, but since 1993, very little has been done. And only God knows how much better our society could have been if we had stuck to the tenets of what the 1992 Constitution has stipulated. But let me quickly go to Mr. Jaco once more. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? All through this Fourth Republic, we've had challenges with the disbursements for district assemblies. But this stretch is not normal. I don't know whether, for you, memory serves, whether you can tell me of any stretch of time when we have gone this long without disbursements to the District Assemblies Common Fund. Since 2018, it's practically 5 years. How do we, even if there are going to be partial disbursements or delays, how do we prevent the delays from getting so long?
Well, I can't say for certain that from 2018 there's been no disbursement, because I don't have clarity on that timeline, because I know periodically there are publications as to when payments are made, and I can't recall that it goes as far as that period. But even working with that date, it tells you that we are in serious crisis. And it tells you that our local government system is not working as it should. Because fundamentally, the structure is weak. It's been designed to be weak, to be subservient to the central government. And there exists no system for the assemblies to, even express themselves. I am not a big fan of creation of new bureaucracies because they also are going to come with their own costs and inefficiencies and the like. I think the core of the problem is to look again at the local government system as it is. And I'm asking myself, supposing we have a directly elected district chief executive, will they not be bold to take central government to court to insist that they should be given their money? Look, not too recently, two members of parliament took central government to court that if you look at the oil revenues, they should be part of our national revenue because they were not counted. From 2013 thereabout, central government refused to add the oil revenues to the national revenues when it came to the disbursement of this Assembly Common Fund. Two members of parliament took the central government to court, and the central government lost. Now we know that the oil revenues have now become part of the national revenue. It tells you what we can do if we empower institutions. If we create another body, even without the creation of a new constitutional body, what is the parliament doing? Why is parliament not speaking for district assemblies? Why are they not dragging the finance minister before them to question the finance minister as to why they failed to disburse the funds to the common fund administrators to be given to the district assemblies? So fundamentally, if you ask me, we need to change the structure of the local government system. We need to repeal the constitution and make the changes that are needed to give them the powers to be a fully decentralized institution that can operate without central government just giving them handouts. Sometimes it's as if they are doing them a favor by giving them some of these money. But it is money that by law they must be given, but it's not being given. So I think if we need a constitutional change, it should be at the structure and the system that we are operating within our decentralized system of governance. Otherwise, we'll go back next year, we'll be talking about this year in the next 10 years. Creating a new constitutional body will not be the solution. Because if you look at the Auditor General's report, if you look at the Internal Audit Agency's report, they bring out all these issues every single year. And Parliament could easily have taken them up and dealt with it, but they haven't done so up till now. So another constitutional body will not do anything for us.
I'd like us to address this. And of course, initially, I just realized that with my calculations, I was looking at 216, actually, instead of 261. When you do the math, so Dr. Appiah as well, it wouldn't be around 27.77 million as anticipated. It would obviously come down. The figure now would be 22.98 million if you do the division of the 6 billion Ghana cedis by the 261 districts. But that still is quite a hurdle. Quite a sum of money that these districts are not getting, and the impact cannot be done away with. But staying on that same subject, we also have the minority in Parliament, which has said that, look, this is what is happening in the district assemblies, and this is how we're going to hold you to account. If you do not, as a finance ministry, make the necessary allocations, whether partial or full, they do not go into those details. We're going to block anything that comes from the finance ministry to the floor of Parliament. From our end, we're not going to support it. What do you make of that stance, Mr. Ejapo? Let me start with you. What do you make of that position?
It will be a very good stance for them to do. But you see that again, it goes to the core of the weakness of our Parliament under this constitution. Because let me take you back to 2015 when Minister Setekpe at the Finance Ministry, 1 full quarter was not paid. And until...
So you're talking of 3 months, a full quarter, 3 months.
Of District Assembly Common Fund was not paid.
Oh, okay, a full quarter of the funds, right.
Yes. And there was no whimper from the parliament about this, clear breach of the constitution. So my worry is that parliament itself has failed the local government system. And parliament, it shouldn't be just a political issue. It should be a fundamental existential issue for parliament to be dealing with. It shouldn't be when my government is in power, I'll be quiet. When my party is not in power, then I'll go all out. When it happens like that, I begin to have second thoughts about their motives about some of these things. By and large, the problem has persisted. That's why I've consistently drawn us back to from 1993. And even the 7.5% that President Kufuor attempted to bring, in fact, under President President Mahama, Vice President Mahama, they even indicated that they were moving it to 10%. And I insist that either under President Kufuor, the 7.5 was never paid. Even I'm insisting the 5% has never been paid by any government in this country, because they always find creative ways of accounting for the public revenues so that they can pay whatever they want. The 7% has never been paid in this country. Neither has was the 10% under President Mahama ever paid. The point is that the 5%, which is the statutory, that's the constitutional, were never paid. Because when these issues are brought in the Auditor General's report, Parliament fails us by not even looking at some of these key issues. So this is where the problem lies. And the assemblies are so weak, they cannot take up central government. So if we want to fix the problem, this is the area that we must sincerely look at. Otherwise, we will keep on talking about these things.
For you, Dr. Appiah, what would be your take on that same point?
Assemblies Common Fund Secretariat should be transformed into a constitutional body. There will not be the need to go and recruit any new administrative staff elsewhere. My take is that the two sides in the House should come together, pass a constitutional amendment, transform the District Assemblies Common Fund Secretariat into a body tasked with the responsibility of independently transferring the money to the district assemblies. Secondly, they should also pass a new rule in that part that at the end of the day transfers a percentage of income tax to this new constitutional body or the District Assemblies Common Fund Secretariat to transfer to the district assemblies. I know that a comprehensive constitutional reform as we sit here is not feasible because Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, has indicated that he is not in support of a comprehensive constitutional reform. But at least he has demonstrated some commitment to pursuing some reform in the local government sector.
But very quickly on that point made by the president, it's not all about him, is it? It's about the people and it's about the members of parliament. And if
we are talking about now where power resides. We are talking about where power lies.
Right.
And it is not the people don't have any power to go and pass a constitutional amendment as in parliament.
But the people are in the constituencies can do that through their members of parliament, which is where it counts.
At the end of the day, so let's assume that the members are now pushing the members of parliament out there to now block the business of the Ministry of Finance. And I'm saying that that is not a realistic approach at the end of the day. If the two are so interested to really ensure that monies are transferred to the district assemblies in a regular manner, then we need to really look at the institutional structure, because it is the architecture that is suffocating the district assemblies from getting the money that they need. And so the two of them should come together, because as Dr. Drew rightly pointed out, during the NDC's time, you hear a quarter has not been paid, 2 quarters have not been paid. NPP comes and you look at their manifesto and they say, oh, we've increased the payment of District Assemblies Common Fund from 35.1% in 2016 to 53.40% in 2019. But that was just a clearing of arrears. It is not that at the end of the day, they consistently from 2018 paid the money. It was a clearing of arrears. So even if you increase it from 31-point-something% to that 53.40% by clearing arrears, you haven't done anything. What we want to see is a consistent, regular transfer of the money. And my take on that is that the two sides should come together at the end of the day, transform the District Assemblies Common Fund Secretariat into an independent constitutional body, create new rule that transfers part of income tax directly to this District Assemblies Common Fund, and let this body transfer. This is not going to be some new bureaucratic kind of layer. At the end of the day, we have to look at what works in other countries, what has worked, and what is feasible within the context in which we find ourselves. I'll block you here today, I'll block you there tomorrow. That is not going to lead to anywhere. And in any case, how sure are we that really they will be committed to blocking any business in the House? If we look at their track record over the past 6 months or so, they have failed woefully to actually be committed to even blocking anything. From the majority side, when they put pressure on the president to remove the finance minister, what came out of it? Nothing. From the minority side, we will not approve 6 new ministers. Nothing came out of that. So let us look at the most feasible approach to do that. And if you look at it, the two sides should be able to come together to transform the DACF Secretariat into an independent body. And at the end of the day, not forget to actually also re-engineer the financial architecture supporting the district assemblies by taking a percentage of as an income tax and then transferring it directly. Otherwise, if we go ahead and create something like the office of the head of a special office or special prosecutor, and then we don't pay attention to the financial engineering side, then they will wake up and they will complain that we don't have the money coming in. We are not able to recruit staff and all that. But we don't have a similar situation happening to the Auditor General's Department. Why? Because the Constitution made some assurances, provide guarantees that once the Auditor General's financial budget is actually approved, the government does not have the power to vary it or to block it. And it's the same kind of reforms that I'm calling for when it comes to district assemblies. Let's transform the DACF Secretariat into an independent constitutional body.
Right.
And let's also deduct some percentage of income tax directly to that body and let them disperse it. This is feasible, it's doable. The two sides can come together and then do it if they are really serious, committed to this.
Doc, hold for me. I love the passion with which you've wrapped the conversation, the thoughts that you've espoused. But what I find curious, what I found interesting was the fact that you think, look, both the majority and the minority in these arrangements, they've never been successful in Parliament in bringing, giving birth to anything. But Mr. Odre-Jacob feels, well, the stance of the minority is the way to go. Final words in some 20 seconds each. What will be your parting words? I think, Doc, you've spoken extensively. I don't know whether you take that, but Mr. Jacob, final words in some 20 seconds. Mr. Jacob, are you with us?
We all need to pay more attention to our local government.
Right.
If there's going to be any development in this country, it's going to be at the local level. But we've overemphasized at the central level. And we've always use the word lack of capacity to undermine the work of the assemblies. We should support the assemblies financially, administratively, and politically for them to perform their function.
Okay. Thank you for those brief words. Let me come back to Doc. Doc, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay.
Let the two sides come together, enact a constitutional amendment, transform DACF into a constitutional independence body, take a percentage of the income tax, give it to them to disburse. Otherwise, in the next 5 years or more, things are going to be very serious. There are going to be many security situations that the assemblies will not be able to handle, and it's going to affect all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for allowing us to tease your thoughts on these all-important matters this morning. 6 billion since about 2018. Not paid to the District Assemblies Common Fund. And the impact is out there in our districts for all of us to see. We bring it forth, hoping that it will impact policy moving into the future. If the Scandinavian countries can do 60% and achieve what they are, why can we not? Progressively. No one is saying we should get there immediately, but progressively. This has been a conversation we've had with Dr. Daniel Appiah. You just heard him. He's a public administration expert. And Fred Odre-Jacob, he is former Dean, Institute of Local Government. Before we get into our next conversation, which is also on the political trajectory or the political front in terms of the Asin North Member of Parliament who has not been allowed to play his role on the back of a court decision. I'm talking about James Jachikwason. That situation still hangs. There's some limbo there that situation hangs in. And minority members of parliament are very unhappy with the adjournments of the case or the abeyance. We'll be getting into that conversation next on the AM show. But before we go, I'm going to take a sip of water, and you know which one I'm going to be sipping on. Awake purified water. Now, Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We know water is life. If you go for water, go for Awake. And they have the perfect sizes. 330 ml if you want to give it to the kids, put it in their pack. 500 ml, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, 1.5 liters for those like me who always want more. If you're in your office or your home and you want something bigger, we have something for you too. Our 19-liter jars are ideal for those purposes. So all you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water and enjoy life as it is. Choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, a donation is made to the National Cardiothoracic Center so that our brothers and sisters in need of health treatment, as far as their hearts are concerned, can receive that treatment. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just call this number, 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. Do remember, this advert is FDA approved. We take a breather. I'll take a sip of water. Bernice Abubedo Lanta takes over from here.